And I'm turning this mic over to you, Bob, Dino James Sears. This mic is all yours.
Trying to find where I can. Oh, there it is. It's on. Okay, great. Good morning. It's been a crazy week, and a lot of that craziness, although in God nothing is crazy, um, you'll see where a lot of the things I talk about today came from. In any event, I don't have a voice, so if somebody could pick up and read my notes, um, that should be on the screen. That would be great.
Yes, it's there on the screen. So I see Mickey and Rafi here. I know will probably be willing to read. I'm just gonna let them figure out which one.
I guess it's me.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you make that a little bit bigger though?
Let me try.
If you go into view, oh, there you go. Okay.
I just want to make sure it wasn't outside the margins.
Would you like me to read that intro?
Yes, please. If you could
Good
start.
morning, ACIM Gather. Welcome to Robert's Ramblings, a potpourri of metaphysical thought from ACIM and other sources. And it's really funny. I was watching, can I add something
Oh,
here?
yeah, go for it.
I was watching a show on, I think it was Netflix. I can't remember what it was on, called Project Runway Junior. And it was this fashion, competition where people have to, make up uh, the fashion theme of the week. But these were kids from 13 to 17, which amazed me. And here's this mentor, Tim Gunn, going around and giving them little critiques before they're actually going to do their runway show. And he says something is a potpourri. And it amazes me. And this a number of times throughout this show, this guy, Tim Gunn, the mentor, would say things to these young people, and they would have no idea what that word meant. And it started me thinking, how do we know what all these words mean? We're not special. At what point in our lives did we figure out what potpourri is?
We
I
made
know
them all up. We made them all up.
we made them all up. I remember learning that word because there was a fashion back in the 70s or so when you would get a bowl and you would fill it with all these twigs and stems and dried flowers and stuff and put this perfumey kind of stuff, and it was called a potpourri, and that's the only reason I know that word. So I just seeing it here sparked that whole thing in my head. I think it's just hysterical, the words, the hundreds of millions of thousands of words we've made up to try and communicate what spirit can give us in a flash of an instant. But we will try and read some words here today, and I'll get back.
So you now understand why I chose that word.
Right. Yes. A potpourri of metaphysical thought, a bowl of twigs and stems representing metaphysical thought. Let's open with this from the Course. Oh, yay. I would love to read this. I am here only to be truly helpful and help out reading. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me, and I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal.
I'm going to skip down to where the essays are. I had a lot of things in between. I think I'm going to skip it, and I think you'll understand why in a second. But
Okay.
let me scroll down. Oh yeah, if you can read these two right here.
A thought came to mind this week, and this is
Me.
Bob's thought, not mine.
Yeah.
A thought came to mind this week. I am not here to compete, but to complement. That's beautiful. I do not write to get rich, but to enrich the sonship. Those are both gorgeous, Bob.
Okay. This has been an interesting week because there was a scene in one of the early episodes of Star Trek or some other sci-fi movie where two computers were connected to each other and they were transmitting data back and forth. And the data coming back and forth, faster and faster and faster until it burned out the computers.
Hmm.
Well, what I've been going through for the last several months has been that type of overload of inspiration. And I'm trying desperately to write what I hear as quickly, wisely, efficiently, and lovingly as I can. And that's my purpose. We talk about each of us having a purpose in life. Well, I discovered mine at 82. Go figure. But by the same token, don't judge me. So let's continue. I'm going to jump down to the essays because there are a bunch of them. And you guys can have a field day picking whatever you want to begin with.
Oh my. Make a decision?
Yeah, take a minute. Seriously,
Uh-huh.
what,
Okay. I'm
what
gonna
jumps out at you?
um let's see here. There's lots of them that sound very intriguing, but one that's jumping out at me is releasing criticism of perception. That sounds like a
Oh
really
my
good.
God, that's exactly what I picked too.
Oh, Lynn, you're echoey. I think you got the wrong mic open.
I don't know how that other mic got open. I probably hit
Okay.
the space bar, but that's exactly the one I was looking at too.
Isn't that funny? Well, that must be the one that we need to read.
I count on that.
Okay, I've got something in front of the yeah, great. Releasing the criticism of perception, A Course in Miracles Perspective. When I criticize what I am seeing, I am criticizing my perceptions. That simple recognition is a profound doorway to healing. The Course tells us repeatedly that the world we see is not reality, but rather a projection of the mind's inner condition. If my perception is distorted by judgment, fear, or guilt, then what I perceive outside will mirror those distortions. To criticize the world is therefore to attack the very lens I am using to view it. The question then naturally arises, how does the Course guide me to release this form of judgment? To answer, we need to understand the interplay between perception, judgment, and forgiveness, and then follow the Course's gentle but radical invitation to let the Holy Spirit reinterpret what we think we see. The nature of perception in the Course. And from chapter 21, projection makes perception. The Course makes no effort to disguise the fact that perception is not objective. It is selective, distorted, and always reflecting the mind that chooses it. If I believe in separation, I will perceive a fragmented world where others are opponents, obstacles, or even enemies. If I believe in guilt, I will see guilt everywhere. In fact, the very act of criticizing what I see is a signal that I am perceiving through the ego's lens, which thrives on attack and comparison. The Course also reminds us that perception is temporary. And from chapter 4, perception is a function of the body and therefore represents a limit on awareness. Criticism arises when I take this limited perception as if it were truth. I believe the story my eyes show me, forgetting that the mind is always the cause. Thus, when I criticize the image, I am in truth attacking myself.
Really?
Yep, there you go. The link between criticism and judgment. The ego cannot perceive without judgment. Its entire framework is based on the idea of comparison. This is better, that is worse. This person is kind, that one is cruel. This event is favorable, that one is disastrous. In every case, judgment divides the world into categories, reinforcing separation. The Course is unambiguous about this. And from chapter 3, you have no idea of the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers totally without judgment. When I criticize what I see, whether it's another's behavior, a social condition, or even the weather, I am placing myself in the judge's seat. I am assuming that my perception is correct. Boy, don't I do that. And that I know enough to declare what is wrong. This is arrogance disguised as discernment. The Course distinguishes between judgment as the ego uses it, which condemns, and the Holy Spirit's judgment, which is simply the decision to see with love instead of fear. The ego's judgment fuels criticism. The Holy Spirit's judgment undoes it. The first step, recognizing the problem. The Course always... Did you want to say something, Bob?
No, I was doing myself.
Oh, okay. The Course always begins by asking us to recognize the problem where it truly lies. The problem is never in the world we criticize, but in the mind that perceives. From chapter 21, seek not to change the world, but choose to change your mind about the world. This is the pivotal point. When I catch myself criticizing, whether silently or aloud, I can pause and remember, this is not about the thing I see, this is about how I am seeing. The criticism is a projection of my own inner discontent. If I try to fix the outer form, I will be endlessly busy and endlessly disappointed. But if I trace the criticism back to its source, I find the ego whispering that I am separate, lacking, and vulnerable.
I'm sorry now that I didn't use the word. I find the ego shouting that I am separate.
Oh, uh-huh. Yeah, the ego does tend to shout as opposed to whisper. The role of forgiveness. The Course's answer is always forgiveness. But forgiveness here is not the same as pardoning someone else for their wrongdoing. Forgiveness in the Course is the release of illusions, the recognition that what I thought harmed me has no real power. Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. Applied to perception, forgiveness means I stop condemning the images that pass before me. I realize they are simply reflections of my own mistaken thought system. By forgiving, I free both myself and my brother from the prison of judgment. Criticism dissolves because there is nothing left to condemn. For example, if I find myself criticizing someone for being rude, I can remember this is my perception. Oh boy, isn't that the truth? You know, who are we? Who are we to decide what's the societal norm when we don't know, what's going on in that room or down that street or who was taught what? It reflects my belief in rudeness, separation, and attack. I can choose instead to ask the Holy Spirit to reinterpret this moment. Perhaps what I see as rudeness is fear. Perhaps the real lesson is my own patience. Or perhaps it is simply an opportunity to remember that nothing real can be threatened. The practice of releasing judgment. The Course gives us many practical tools for releasing criticism. Among them, the workbook lessons such as I do not perceive my own best interests and I could see peace instead of this, lessons 24 and 34, invite us to suspend judgment and allow another way of seeing. Daily review. Observing the moments when I criticize helps me see patterns in my thinking. The workbook is designed to train the mind in this awareness. Holy Spirit's reinterpretation. Each time I notice criticism, I can silently say, I do not know what this means. Holy Spirit, show me another way. This short circuits the ego's attempt to conceal judgment. And choosing again. The Course emphasizes that mistakes are not sins. Each moment is a chance to choose again. Criticism does not condemn me. It simply points to a place where I can invite correction. The miracle of non-criticism. When I withhold criticism, something miraculous happens. My perception begins to shift. The world I once judged harshly becomes softer, gentler, more forgiving. People I saw as enemies begin to appear as fellow learners. Even difficult circumstances start to feel like opportunities for growth. This is not because the world has changed, but because my mind has. The criticism that once clouded my vision is lifted. The Holy Spirit reveals a new perception, what the Course calls the real world. And from chapter 17, the real world is attained simply by the complete forgiveness of the old, the world you see without forgiveness. The real world is not free of problems, but it is free of the belief that problems have the power to harm. It is a state of mind where everything is viewed through love. The inner peace that results. The ego promises satisfaction through judgment, but delivers only conflict. Criticism never brings peace. At best, it offers a momentary sense of superiority, followed quickly by guilt. By contrast, releasing criticism opens the door to profound peace. I begin to see that nothing outside can truly disturb me. My mind is the source of my experience, and my mind is aligned with God's love when I choose forgiveness. From chapter 3, peace is the natural inheritance of spirit. Everyone is free to refuse to accept his inheritance, but he is not free to establish what his inheritance is. When I stop criticizing, I stop refusing peace. I accept what was always mine. A gentle process, not a harsh demand. It is important to remember that the Course never demands perfection in an instant. It invites willingness, not coercion. If I notice that I criticize 100 times a day, the practice is not to condemn myself, but to offer each instance to the Holy Spirit. Little by little, the habit of judgment loosens its grip. Pardon me. The Course reassures us from chapter 31, trials are but lessons that you failed to learn, presented once again. So where you made a faulty choice before, you now can make a better one. I love that line. Each criticism is not a failure, but an opportunity. It is simply the same lesson returning until I am ready to choose differently. Living without criticism. Imagine a day in which you simply notice without condemning. You see a long line at the grocery store, and instead of criticizing the slowness, you breathe and remember, I could see peace instead of this. You watch the news, and instead of criticizing the actors on the world stage, you recall, I am never upset for the reason I think. You hear a friend speak harshly, and instead of criticizing their tone, you silently offer, above all else, I want to see things differently. Such a day would feel radically different. Peace would no longer depend on circumstances. Joy would not be hostage to conditions. This is the freedom the Course holds out to us, if we are willing to release the burden of criticism. The way out of judgment. When I criticize what I see, I am criticizing my perceptions. This recognition alone is liberating, for it shifts the problem from the external world to the internal mind. The Course guides me to release this form of judgment by inviting me to recognize that perception is projection. understand that criticism is the ego's attempt to make separation real, call on forgiveness to undo illusions, allow the Holy Spirit to reinterpret each moment, and practicing releasing judgment step by step without guilt. In doing so, I discovered that peace was never outside me. It was always within, waiting for me to stop condemning my perceptions and allow them to be healed. Perception is a mirror, not a fact, and what I look on is my state of mind reflected outward. And that's from lesson 304. When I release criticism, I no longer attack the mirror. I choose instead to change the mind it reflects. In that choice lies my freedom, my joy, and the return to the love of God. There we go. That was beautiful, Bob.
Thank you.
It really is, yeah. Our perceptions really do mirror what's going on in our own minds and within our hearts. And like I talked about a week or two ago about my tendency toward being hyper vigilant for being critical, it now every time I find myself doing that, every time I notice somebody's doing something the wrong way or something is the way it shouldn't be, it reminds me to be hyper vigilant for God and for Holy Spirit. So we can use, as long as we're in a body and we're projecting, and if we're in a body, we are projecting. We're going to find fault with things and we're going to see differences and we're going to see where we think things could be done differently or more correctly. And if we can use something like that as a tool to remind us each time ego wants to talk to us about being critical, if we can use that as a tool to remind us to look toward Holy Spirit instead, we can at least use our flaws, our perceived flaws, as benefits.
What I'm coming to realize very slowly is that the fact that I even think I'm here is part of my own projection.
Yep, absolutely. And Lynn's got her hand up.
All
Then go
right.
ahead.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, this is really good. I really appreciate this discussion because that's exactly what I've been seeing is that, perception has a focus. Of course, we always say that. Starting in like chapter 13, um, Jesus says to us, projection makes perception. He also says that, I think, in chapter 23 as well. But even in the very first uh, part of like the first miracle principles, um, number 23, miracles rearrange perception and place all levels in true perspective. This is healing because sickness comes from confusing the levels. And then in number 30, by recognizing spirit, miracles adjust the levels of perception and show them in proper alignment. This places spirit at the center where it can communicate directly And this perception that we're talking about here is my story about what's happening. Really, that's all the perception is, my story about what's happening. And so I did watch, somebody sent me, or several of you, it was like a group chat talking about this, and I'm not trying to bring up controversy, I'm just noticing something here, that this interview or discussion between this Charlie Kirk fellow who was just killed, and a man who they labeled as being transsexual, and 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 that's in itself perceptually is a misnomer, because that doesn't actually isn't what it is. But man, I have a lot of friends who are transgender, so I've have this like um uh, I think a fairly clear understanding of the fact that there are no genders, and we are the ones who make it all up, deciding for ourselves what it is that we want to call it. But this person was not transgender. I mean, I could tell from the things that they were saying, the reason that they were a biological female, excuse me, who transitioned to be a male and has all the features and everything of a male, went through surgeries, did the hormone replacement, all that kind of stuff, but never actually believed that they were a man, and always believed that they are a woman who is wanting to display as a man, wanting to display as a man. And I understand, I was listening to this thing and was like, I get why people are so confused, because that is not really transgender at all. That that is transsexual or trans. There is another uh uh thing about it. It's a body dysmorphia, thinking that my body doesn't reflect what I am, or what I want it to reflect. And I want to look like a man, and that's what they said. I wanted to look like a man. I want to be like a man. I want to be, but never once I am a man. And so that's the difference in being transgender and this other thing. And so I recognized, as I was listening to it, that people who were totally ignorant of what transgender was were getting a completely different picture of what transgender was than the truth of what it is, or as much of the truth as you can know as what it is. And that the fellow that was Charlie Kirk was doing the interviewing, was going from his very moralistic point of view, puritanistic, moralistic point of view. Sex is between a man and a woman. It's a sacred thing, and gender. This is something that God made. You can't change it. He had this very basic point of view, and the two of them were agreeing a lot. And of course, they were going to agree a lot because their actual uh their actual points of view really supported each other in many ways, and the ways that they didn't really get upset or worry about, or they weren't angry about or upset or afraid of. And I realized, this is that honestly, of anything that I have seen the entire time that I've been studying this course and looking at perception and focus and what that means, that was the first time it really hit me that everyone has their own point of view, which I know that. I always say that. Everyone has their own point of view, and their world is built on that. Their existence is built on that. And if you think they're being threatened, then they are going to get upset and afraid, and they're going to be defensive and whatever. But it's because of the perception, this worldview that we have. And my understanding from looking at this is that none of it is true. We're not bodies. There is no gender. There's no men or women or anything of that nature. These are all the stories that we made up. And that's when I recognized, Everything I see is a story I made up. I've said this 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. I never actually saw it, that this is all a story that I am making up. Even this, what I'm saying right now, story I'm making up. So this whole point of perception that Jesus hounds on us, like 520 places in the Course of Miracles, he talks about perception. And all of it is about you're the one who's making it up. And when you stop making it up, it stops being a story. That's what I was talking with Wayne about. I was listening to my husband was playing The Sopranos while I was trying to go to sleep. And I kept going back and getting involved in the story. And I was asking myself, why am I getting involved in the story? I don't even like this. I'm not interested in this, but I still want, oh, what happened? I still get back into it. And I realize it's because I want to see the drama. I want to see what it is, what seems to be happening, the story. And so, I recognize it, I have, as long as I'm choosing to believe in the story, I don't really have a choice of the story I believe. I'm going to believe whatever story is presented to me and in my mind. But when I stop believing any of the stories and recognize that none of it's really happening, then there's I'm just free of all that crazy crap. Anyway, I see Bob has his hand up and so does Mickey. Go ahead, Bob.
Vicky, go ahead.
So, Lynn just said something that really struck me as um, very profound. It was a very simple sentence. It did not say a lot, but it is incredibly deeply profound, which is everyone has their own point of view. And that alone speaks volumes. This is why nothing means anything. This is why nothing has any value here, because there are 8 billion different points of view for any one thing. And there are gazillions of things. And the truth, there is only one truth. Only the truth is true. God is. And if we cannot see something from the absolute point of view, then it can't be real. It can't have any validity whatsoever. Why would we have an opinion about it when we're only seeing 1/8 billionth of a point of view? It's just ridiculous. And yes, opinions. I love that little statement.
I'll read it.
Don't say it. We know what opinions are like, and everybody's got one. And I was reading. Somebody sent me an essay by a guy named Fred. I can't remember his last name, in the non-dual community, which I'm not a big part of, but my friend is, and she likes to send me essays every once in a while, trying to nudge me onto her path. But the guy had a brilliant acronym called BOP, BOP. He called them BOPs, and it stands for beliefs, opinions, and what was the P? Uh, it wasn't perception. Darn it! Now it just went out of my head. What the other? Did I write it down? what the position, beliefs, opinions, and positions. And, we could all bop each other over the head from here to kingdom come with our bops, with our beliefs, opinions, and positions, and it doesn't mean a darn thing. And I just thank you, Lynn. Everybody has what was it? I wrote it. Everybody has their own point of view. So yeah, thanks.
Mickey, I have to laugh because as soon as you said BOP, Bob, before you came up with your answer to the acronym, it just flashed in my head. Bullshit on parade. Yeah.
Oh,
We,
that's great. I'm
we
gonna
may
write
have
that one down.
we may have time for one more essay, but before I do that, I'm going to take a page from um, Susan Michelle's playbook and let everybody know that, where am I here? She's got it down to a science. Oh, never mind, I won't put it up. The book that I recently wrote, the one, What is Consciousness, is also going to be available within a few days as an audio book.
Very
So
nice.
that should be fun. I
Yeah,
got a
Susan doesn't have a
fantastic
background.
area. Huh?
Susan doesn't have a background. That's why she can hold up her book and show it because she's just sitting there. You have a background up, so it anything but
Okay.
your face is going to be blocked out.
Okay. Well, in any event, you got, oh, this is not there. Let me put the list up again and we'll pick one and is that
Rafi had his hand up.
Rafi, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. Posted up already. That was beautiful. But it just occurred to me with all of this going on and all this talk about transgender thing, there is an Olympic champion who decided to transfer and become a woman. It didn't change his life one bit. He still shows up on talk shows and panel shows and roasts and things, and all he did was change the outside, the look. Okay, wardrobe, hair, right? Maybe maybe bathroom practices, but outside of that, he's still the same. It's whatever was inside was still functioning the same way. So we want to talk about bullshit on parade? There it is. What did you change? Well, I wear women's clothes and my hair is different, and but you talk the same. You still show up and do the same things you did when you were walking around as a man. What's the difference? The difference is in appearance. Well, appearances, what the hell do they mean? If everything, there's a couple of things that came to mind. You want to talk about appearance? Take a look at David and Goliath. Goliath probably never, there was no Goliath. Goliath represents ego. Seems like a gigantic thing, but you can kill it just like that if you're determined enough. Uh, and there's so many other things. The expression that I heard that well, several of the masters said, if you can see it, it ain't real. If you can't see it, that's reality. And so I look at everything you look at is illusion, is projected thought images, and you're the one that, or I'm the one that projected the thought and then evaluated it. What a waste of time. What a lot of activity. It gets you absolutely nowhere. Unless you see that everything here is working for me, and I see that everything here is working, happening for me and not to me, then I'm just caught up in the game. In all of this crazy mishigas that doesn't mean anything. So I just thought I'd like to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Mickey?
In response to what Rafi just said, it's I came up with a theory many years ago when I was talking with my nephew who was considering uh, trans, what do you call it when you go from one gender to the other?
Transgender.
Transitioning. Thank you.
Transitioning, yeah.
Yes, he was considering transitioning um, to present as a woman, and we had a long conversation. And at some point, he was talking about how uncomfortable he felt walking around in a man's body. And I had just started studying the course not long before that. And thank God I had, absorbed enough. And I said to him, honey, none of us are comfortable in these bodies. We're not meant to be in a body. And he was spiritual enough to understand what I was saying. Um, and he had a little bit of a grasp on that theory. Uh, we're all uncomfortable. Unfortunately, yours is, you know, your brand of of discomfort is is based on gender. Somebody else's brand of discomfort is based on the fact that they wish they had different color hair, or they wish they were taller, or they wish they weighed a different weight, or had a different accent, or whatever it is that we're dealing with. It's
A
going to
different
be
race.
yeah, different color skin, whatever. Are the basic discomfort of being a human in a body is going to manifest in whatever way is most convenient. And I'm not going to claim any responsibility for him deciding not to transition. He did a few years after that decide to transition out of being in a body at all, unfortunately. But yeah, he we're all uncomfortable, whether we're a famous Olympic athlete or a janitor in a school. We're all uncomfortable being in a body. Anyway, that's what I had to say. Thanks.
Uh, excuse me, Nikki, the thing about these differences is it's all, oh God, I had the words a minute ago. It's all form. And the real issue is the reason we're not comfortable in the body, whatever that body is, male, female, black, white, doesn't matter. Whatever that body is form. And we are not feeling, recognizing, or experiencing what is content or truth about us, and that is that we are pure spirit. Rafi?
Yeah, a couple of things. One of the things I use a lot is, could I let go of being so smart and allow myself to be other than what I think I am? Yes, and repeat that several times. It brings up a lot of stuff. It's automatic releasing, and about being, I'm perfectly comfortable in my body. It's just that I know that I'm not this body. It's just an image, and it's here. It's not what I am. It's serving like everything else does, and it knows it. Who was it? Several of the masters have said the body's a natural healing machine. You just get out of the way and let it do whatever it came here to do. And what's it got to do with you in the first place? Okay, so the less I identify with it, the more, like in the morning when I wake up and I go into the bathroom to brush my teeth, I look in the mirror and I see this image and I say, "I love you. You're not what I am. You're not even real. You're just an image, and I love you anyway." and then I just go on with it. I mean, because to get all caught up in it is I forget who said it, but it's the source of all groundless fears. And groundless fears is the key phrase there. If you think you are this and you got to deal with it, then all the fears that come with, well, first of all, I got to keep it alive. Oh my God. Or let me just die so I don't have to deal with this stuff anymore. Oh, no, I want to die. No, I want to live. No, what the hell is all of that for? Okay, it's all a lot of mental crap. So it's here serving. It ain't what I am. It's perfect. Leave it alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafi, and I agree with you 100%. Before we go, I want to just share something kind of off the wall. Most of you know I'm pretty sick. I have not tasted real food in almost 2 years. I live on the G tube, and in the last 2 years, I've lost about 150 pounds. So if you were to look at me, you'd see skin and bone. But since I started writing the essays, my capability of performing is getting much better. I walk better, I think better, I breathe better, I act better, and I live better. Now, did I intend that for a physical healing? No. I intended it to be able to write things for my benefit. But in sharing it with all of you, it comes back to me as a twofold blessing. So I hope you'll allow me to continue to share what I'm receiving. And with that, I will turn it over to Lynn.
There we go. All right. Thank you so much, Bob. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, you came here when you were ready. And I mean, when I saw that list of all the essays, I'm like, holy cow. Do you sleep? Are you?
Do I sleep? No.
Yeah. Well,
No, seriously, I get some of these essays at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's that is just so wonderful because yeah, I mean what more do you have to live for, really honestly? If that was all I was living for, then which it pretty much is, but I have a lot of other things that I'm, invested in. But really this is the only thing that's really has any value. So, you're right exactly where you need to be right now.
And one that I'm adding to the list when I finish it today is what is my purpose?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because yeah, we're all living our purpose right now. This is what we're here for. And I'm so grateful for every one of you. Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you everyone who's been here. And tonight, I'm not even sure what we're doing tonight, but we'll be here at 7. And then tomorrow night we have Sandy Levy back for the second part of Holy Relationships. So I hope you'll all join us then. Love you guys and see you all later.
Bye.
Later.